Year 10 and 11, welcome to your quick revision on the character of Banquo in preparation for your GCSE English Literature exam. Initially then, Macbeth and Banquo are very similar. At the beginning of the play, they are both valiant, heroic warriors who have been in this battle that we hear about. Then the witches reveal their predictions, and then this is where Macbeth and Banquo begin to drift apart in terms of their similarities. And we notice this in their response to the witches. So after the witches give their predictions and their prophecies, Macbeth is enchanted, and we get the quotation that he's rapt withal, whereas Banquo is more suspicious, and we get neither beg nor fear. I'm going to analyse these in detail. Banquo also refers to the predictions as a tune. Again, I'm going to analyse this in a moment. Something which may please the ear, but in this instance is quite ominous. So the key quote is when Banquo says, "Look how our partner's rapt," about Macbeth, when Macbeth has heard the predictions. Now, rapt comes from the Latin word raptus, which means to be seized or kidnapped. Now, interestingly, it's the same word that gives us rape, which clues us into the way that women were viewed as property at the time. And rape was a crime against a man's property rather than against a woman. Anyway, with reference to the play and this moment, if Macbeth is rapt, then he's been seized by something outside of his control, and in this instance is something supernatural. So this is where the men begin to differ. Where Macbeth is enchanted by this supernatural power and this supernatural prophecy, Banquo is more cautious and suspicious about the dangers of the witches. So we get this full quote: "My noble partner, you greet with present grace and great prediction of noble having and of royal hope, that he seems rapt withal. To me you speak not. If you can look into the seeds of time and see which grain will grow and which will not, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favours nor your hate." So Banquo wants a prophecy. He asks them there, if you can look into the seeds of time, he asks them about himself. So although he's a bit more relaxed than Macbeth, he claims he doesn't care either way about the favours or the hate. But then we must ask ourselves, well, why would you ask? So Banquo, similarly to Macbeth, is privy to desires, much like all men. The difference is he has the ability to be reasonable. So I'll just explain. Where Macbeth gets his predictions and is immediately carried away and writes the letter to Lady Macbeth, Banquo gets the predictions and is cautious. So again, this quote, Banquo speaks poetically about the seeds of time. We've got this massive natural metaphor. Banquo often uses natural metaphors as well, which we're going to see as we carry on through this video. And he uses the seeds of time about which grain will grow and which won't. So this reference to nature is him comparing seeds to people. And Banquo is indicating that the witches know who will grow and be successful and who will die, and that's, I suppose, why he inquires about his own future. He's obviously referring to the prophecy, as we've rightly said, because the witches have prophesied that Macbeth will be king. He obviously wants to know about himself. So Banquo's metaphor of seeds and grains is a metaphor that compares seeds and grains to the present kings and the future kings, and obviously this idea of growing and prospering. So Banquo and suspicion then. His suspicions of the witches initially protect him. Yes, I know he dies, but remember, he is killed by Macbeth, which nobody really could predict, not even Banquo. But he dies having committed no treason. He dies with honour. He has committed no sins, and therefore his soul is not damned, unlike our protagonist, Macbeth. And we get this. What are these so withered and so wild in their attire that look not like the inhabitants of the earth? So immediately Banquo questions the reality of the witches and this idea as to whether they're imaginary, and yet are on it. Live you, or are you aught that man may question? You seem to understand me by each at once her chappy finger lean upon her skinny lips. You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. So again, as I say, when he initially sees the witches, he is full of suspicion, whereas Banquo really isn't. He's full of suspicion, where Macbeth really isn't, is he? And Banquo is drawn to their appearance and wonders if they're real. And if they're not real, how are they there? Again, this is all working to serve the prophecies, and that's probably why Banquo questions the prophecies, because it all seems a bit too imaginary and too fanciful. He believes they are being tricked, and these lines show us that he's cautious, whereas Macbeth dives right in. So even when he wants to know his future, he does it cautiously when he says, neither beg nor fear your favours nor your hate. We also get, oftentimes to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths with us with honest trifles to betray us. Now, in this metaphor, he outlines the dangers of the witches. And if we look at this metaphor of instruments in the dark and we link it to the metaphor I gave you earlier about the witches' prophecies being a tune, the metaphors are linked. Banquo then, so as I said earlier, these instruments that play this tune of darkness, this metaphor shows us that whilst a tune can be pleasing to the ear, it can also be ominous. And therefore, in this instance, we realise that Banquo is morally stronger than Macbeth because he is able to oppress and not act on the prophecy. Therefore, Shakespeare juxtaposes the two men. Banquo is used as a foil to Macbeth to emphasise Macbeth's moral weaknesses and his lack of self-control. Other than loyalty, he also shows honour. There, if I grow, the harvest is your own. Again, look at your natural metaphors here. The harvest is your own. In this metaphor, Banquo expresses his loyalty to King Duncan. It shows that he is honourable. And again, this will contrast with the actions of Macbeth. We also get the quote, but still keep my bosom franchise and allegiance clear. So Banquo shows here that he won't be swayed by Macbeth and he remains noble. This line here follows what Macbeth has said about, oh, if you stick with me, everything's going to be fine. And Banquo's response again is honourable in the sense that he says, well, I'll stick with you only if my conscience remains clear. Therefore, I'm not going to commit any shady acts or any acts of treason or anything that is devious. So we've got to be asking ourselves, if he's so honourable and loyal, why does he end up dead? Now, this is interpretation. Like Macbeth, Banquo has a flaw of ambition, and it's only very subtle, because right before he gets murdered, he has an imaginary conversation with Macbeth. And we've got it here. I don't expect you to remember it all, but here it is. Thou hast it now, King Cawdor Glamis all, as the weird women promised, and I fear thou played most foully for it. Yet it was said it should stand not in thy posterity, but thou myself should be the root and father of many kings. If they come true from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why by the verities on thee made good. May they not be my oracles as well, and set me in hope, but hush no more. He suspects Macbeth of foul play. If you look, thou playedst foully for it. However, he doesn't tell anyone. And therein lies a fault within Banquo. And in fact, he tells himself to be quiet. Maybe it's because he is excited at the thought of being the father of many kings. So we ask ourselves, does Banquo suffer from ambition as a flaw as well as Macbeth? Is he too ambitious that his children are going to be kings? Therefore, he doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't tell anyone that Macbeth perhaps has won the crown in a foul manner. Another huge quote from Banquo is, restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way and repose. And this links to what I've just said about ambition. So this scene foreshadows what is to follow, right? The night is dark. We know what Shakespeare does with his weather. And this dark night serves to foreshadow the fact that the king is going to die, etc. And on this night, and it is the night of the murder, we have this darkness as a warning to the audience. Now, Banquo is agitated about his own thought and he asks for help. Look at restrain. He asks the merciful powers to hold back in him the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. It is unclear here whether he's thinking of committing murder himself. So we're not sure what this cursed thought is, but we assume, if it's a cursed thought, that it must be murder and it must be the getting rid of the king so that his children can prosper. Now again, Shakespeare uses this scene to contrast directly with Macbeth's following scene. So where Banquo asks the heavens to help him stay clear of sin, Macbeth doesn't, and that is perhaps why he is so vulnerable to Lady Macbeth's persuasion. So this moment here, pause the video, note this down, is massive, where he asks for help to stop his cursed thoughts. Reminder then that this is another contrast between the two men. Banquo resists the urge of the cursed thought, whereas Macbeth can't. Is Macbeth weaker than Banquo? Morally, yes. Interestingly, when Macbeth is speaking about Banquo, he thinks a lot of his friend, and when he's contemplating whether to kill him, he says, "'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind, he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valour to act in safety. There is none but he whose being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked." This is huge. So Macbeth admires Banquo's bravery and fears his wisdom. So if you're analysing quotations, you've got this, he's got a wisdom that guides his valour. So valour, bravery, this valiant man we had at the beginning, the fact that he's got wisdom to act safely rather than be persuaded to do acts of malevolence. And then here he says Macbeth says he doesn't fear anyone except Banquo because Banquo rebukes his genius. So we have this idea that actually Banquo is more intelligent than Macbeth, and therefore he's another threat. After Duncan's murder as well, it is Banquo who is suspicious, and he questions this most bloody piece of work. And he's also the one to suspect that Macbeth has played most foully for the crown. So remember, Banquo himself is a threat to Macbeth. During the murder scene then, Banquo screams, "Oh treachery, fly, good fleance, fly, fly, thou mayst revenge, O slave." So look at the word treachery. He knows he's been betrayed. He knows he's been betrayed by Macbeth. And then he urges Fleance to leave because obviously Fleance is a threat to the crown. And then we have this idea of revenge. Now Banquo haunts Macbeth during the banquet scene. His ghost haunts him. Therefore, I suppose that is his revenge. He makes Macbeth look undignified. Perhaps this haunting serves to metaphorically represent moral values. And this idea that Banquo has some and dies with moral values, whereas Macbeth doesn't have any really, does he? And in Act 4, Scene 1, Macbeth sees Banquo's children as king, and it reminds him that his crown is fruitless. And then we get on the stage directions, a show of 8 kings, the last with a glass in his hand, followed by Banquo. So Banquo continues to haunt Macbeth. Again, remember, Shakespeare has juxtaposed these two men. And then Macbeth responds to this, responds to the show of 8 kings with Banquo, "Thou art too like the spirit of Banquo down, thy crown does see my eyeballs." So seeing Banquo's ghost again, and the children haunts and burns Macbeth's eyes. So I suppose in terms of revenge, Banquo gets his revenge, doesn't he really? Just to sum up then, initially Banquo and Macbeth are similar, but once they hear the predictions of the witches, these similarities end. Banquo is a more moral version of Macbeth, and Shakespeare juxtaposes the two men. He uses Banquo to highlight Macbeth's moral weaknesses and his lack of self-control. I hope this video has been useful. A massive good luck in your English literature exam.